I want to say good morning to everybody present. This is, well, it's under unfortunate circumstances that I assume this chair this morning. Our acting mayor, Shaylee Wilbur's, experienced a personal tragedy in her life and is attending to that presently. So, as you can see today, we are running a little bit low. I believe the first order of business for council to conduct today is a public consultation session for Water Conservation Amendment Bylaw number 4183. I'll kick it over to our corporate administrator to begin.
Thank you and good morning. As directed by council, this public consultation is being held to provide the public with an opportunity to comment on the proposed changes to the city's Water Conservation Measures Bylaw. Water Conservation Measures Amendment Bylaw number 4183 proposes to move the prohibition of hauling bulk water for non-potable use from Stage 4 conservation measures to Stage 2 conservation measures. And there was one letter received from Don Reedman, who is opposed to the changes. His letter is included on the agenda for this public consultation.
Who's the second?
Also, a letter from Dennis Nowitzki as well, I believe.
Oh, yes. Also from Dennis Nowitzki.
Beautiful.
They're both included on the agenda.
Right on. I trust that council has had the opportunity to read the correspondence from these two gentlemen. Brenda, now is a appropriate time to call for comments from the gallery.
Yes, yes.
I'll call the first time for comments from the gallery. If you wish to speak, Mr. Javakov, why don't you make yourself comfortable there, right up front.
Okay, the concerns that I have about the changes, the city infrastructure, including water, must meet the needs of industry for industrial growth. The gap between spending and revenue will widen with the approval of this bylaw. Financial implications of the bylaw amendment have not been quantified prior to this amendment, and the financial implications of the bylaw should carry the same weight as the financial implications of the pipeline issue. So I know it says in the report that the financial implications aren't easily quantifiable. I think they are easily quantifiable, and I think it's a pretty important factor. I think you guys have to know what the impacts are financially before you vote on this bylaw. The cost to the city of water production is stated in urban systems reports. $1.68 per cubic meter, and that's in the water rate structure review of November 2009. And also it's in the Schedule A of Bylaw 4087, $1.68. So that's the cost of production as I understand it, of water for Dawson Creek. There's also a number, $1.51 per cubic meter, and that was for 2006, and that was the City of Dawson Creek Water Cost Study that was also done by Urban Systems, and that was in March of 2008. And another point that was made in that report, Urban Systems states that the revenue surplus that year in 2006 was $575,000. And that surplus should be reserved for future capital requirements. The industrial bulk water rate is currently $4.50 a cubic meter, and that includes the $1.60 surcharge for non-domestic use. So the revenue realized over and above the cost of production, which is $1.68, is $2.82 per cubic meter. So that, the way I see it, is profit. So you're treating water, you're selling this water that you've treated, and you're making $2.82 a cubic meter. The Urban Systems Report Water Rate Structure Review states that 2008 water usage was about 2.2 million cubic meters overall. City staff estimates that, and this is stated in the mail-out circular of September 2010, that industry uses 20 to 25% of the water. So using 20%, the surplus revenue would have been 1.2 million that year. And that's using the current rate of $4.50 a cubic meter. So that's $1.2 million that would have been put into the coffers of the city. And if you followed Urban Systems' recommendation, it would have been reserved for future utility capital works. Actual volumes, see, I didn't have the actual volumes. I went back as far as I could in reports. But the only actual volumes I could get was for 2012. And that number for bulk water for the three services that are identified in there separately, the surplus, or the water used was 179,167 cubic meters. So the surplus revenue would have been 505,250. So that's $505,250 surplus revenue. Now, that's, if you remember last year, it was a real drought year. There was a lot of restrictions, and so it was pretty tight for water use. And you still have a surplus of 505,000. The figures for the first 5 months of this year are 91,944 cubic meters. So at the rate of $2.82 per cubic meter, this represents a surplus of 259,282. Now these figures only include the metered volumes from those three facilities. They don't include any of the volumes from the bulk stations. So if you include the water that's taken from the bulk stations for the same purpose, it would substantially increase the surplus. So the way I figure it, you could assume that the surplus could range from $500,000 to $1.5 million a year, depending on the usage. Now that's a pretty significant number when you consider the work that can be done with that money, you know, in the water utility. So it is a concern when one considers the impacts on taxpayers without this surplus, especially when water that is not used simply flows by. Taxpayers will be on the hook for all future costs regarding water unless council can capitalize on some of these opportunities that are here because of the industrial activity. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Javakov. Certainly appreciate your comments. Summarize, you're saying the city needs to provide water for industry. There's not enough, well, you're ensuring that we understand the financial considerations of this report, this bylaw amendment. And yes, your numbers, I believe, were ones that I was familiar with, or at least the water rates were. Provides the city with a lot of surplus revenue, including $259,282 this year so far. And yeah, is that fair to summarize? Imagine so. I will call a second time for comments from the gallery. And a third time for comments. Hearing none, I will close this public sorry, Councillor Parslow.
I think it's in order to, this is a consultation session, so I can ask some questions.
Certainly, so I apologize.
No, not at all. Obviously the sale of water to industry generates a lot of revenue to council, but the thing that I'm confused with, Paul, is that we haven't cut off industry. It's only when we're going into conservation phases. So your figures are if there was no sale of water to industry, period, but there will be sale of water to industry. It only stops when we have to invoke some conservation measures beyond stage 1. Do you follow what I'm saying?
I do, yeah, and that's exactly my point. If you choose not to do a financial implications assessment before you vote, you don't have all the information. And I know you've said lots yourself that we want to know, we need the facts, we need to know what the people are thinking. So there has to be an assessment here, and it's not hard to do. I mean, you can use last year as an example, because you've got all the numbers, they're all right there in the reports. When you went on stage 2. When you go on stage 2, you're not, you still have water to pump. Stage 2 is a level where there's still water available. Some of the restrictions are restrictions that have been put on there, and for lack of a better word, they're artificial and they're designed to conserve water. What I'm saying is you've got this opportunity to make some money, to do some work, and maybe those conservation measures has to be looked at. But you don't know that. I mean, you've got my figures here, but unless you've done your own assessment, you don't know.
Right on. Does council have any further questions? Any more? No? All right.
Well, just one comment,
Sure.
a topic I have placed on the agenda might well address the comments that Paul's just made.
Yeah, that is true. Council's currently not putting off, but considering the outcomes of the Sure Water campaign, and is going to make a determination on how to proceed after the financial assumptions for next year and the next 5 years are made this fall. Isn't that correct, Councillor Parslow?
That's correct, yeah.
Yeah, just making sure. Well, there's some good discussion. It's an appropriate time to close this public consultation session. And I now declare the next public consultation session regarding our official community plan bylaw, I believe, 4174, to be called to order. Go ahead. I look to our corporate administrator now to read aloud the notice.
Thank you. This public consultation is being held to respond to comments received from anyone who may be affected by the proposed change to the city's official community plan bylaw. OCP Amendment Bylaw Number 4174 proposes to redesignate various park dedicated properties or portions of properties to the parks designation. This bylaw also proposes to redesignate the 0.57 hectare strip of land between the city cemetery and the Walter Wright Pioneer Village at the Dawson Creek Municipal and the Dawson Creek Municipal Library to institutional. And there were no written comments received regarding these.
Right. Thank you very much to our corporate administrator. I will once again call out for comments, ask the gallery for comments. Is anybody wishing to comment on this? I'll call a second time for comments and a third time for comments. Hearing none, I will declare this public consultation session closed, and that will enable us to go to our third order of pre-regular meeting business this morning, which I believe is a public hearing regarding the official community plan bylaw number 4174. Forgive me as I put it up here. I cannot find it. So yes, I'll call to order this public hearing for the OCP bylaw and zoning amendment bylaw number 4175, 2013. And one final time, look to our corporate administrator to read aloud the notice.
Thank you. Once again, this public hearing is being held to hear from anyone who may be affected by the proposed changes to the city's zoning bylaw, OCP Amendment Bylaw 4174, and Zoning Amendment Bylaw number 4175 proposes to redesignate and rezone various park-dedicated properties or portions of the properties to the parks designation P2 Parks and Recreation Zone. This bylaw also proposes to redesignate to institutional and rezone to P1 Institutional Public Zone the 0.57 hectare strip of land between the city cemetery and the Welter Pioneer Village and the Dawson Creek Municipal Library. And again, no written comments were received.
Right on. So, I will call for comments from the gallery one last time. Does anybody wish to speak to this? I'll call a second time for comments and a third time for comments. Hearing none, we will close this public hearing. And what time have we got here? 1:45. All right, we declare that public hearing closed, and I will now call to order the regular meeting of City Council on August 12th, 2013. I suppose there's a bit of preliminary business that needs to be conducted before we begin this morning, that I've been made aware of anyway. I am told that it is a good idea to call attention yet again to our corporate administrator this morning, to highlight some concerns about who's chairing the meeting.
All right, through you, Mr. Chair. Due to the fact that Acting Mayor Wilbur is not in attendance and may be away for a period of time, Council should be making a motion to appoint a new acting mayor for that time that she is away.
Mm-hmm.
And that is through to the end of August.
And this is to cover any possible gaps or stops in legislation. Councillor Schumann.
So I would make the motion that Councillor Melkinson would be named as our acting mayor until Shaylee's return.
Awesome. Councillor McFadden seconding. That's a sufficient motion, I assume, not just for the rest of the month. That'll be fine.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Should vote on that, shouldn't we?
Certainly, certainly. Nobody wishes to discuss it, eh? Terry, you don't want to be
No.
acting mayor? No? You don't want to chair?
I don't think we're gonna fight over it.
All right. You ready for the question? All those in favor? All opposed? It's carried. All right. Here we go. Regular council. So, first item on the agenda this morning is item 2.1. Councillor Parslow is has an item, well, two items, I believe, identified this morning. And the first one is about the Sure Water campaign, or regarding Sure Water.
Sure. I'll read the note I sent to Council dated July the 15th. At the present time, Council is reflecting on whether to move forward on the engineering for a pipeline to a water source such as the Peace River. Part of this reflection is tied to Council responding to the fiscal gap information and the determination of its budget guidelines for the 2014 fiscal year. As part of the process of resolution to these matters, it's important for Council and the citizens of Dawson Creek to have a sense of the cost impact of developing and operating a pipeline to the Peace River. There are many factors that need to be considered, including engineering, routing and land acquisition, pump houses, pipeline work, adjustments to the water treatment plant, and annual operating costs. Proponents of a pipeline have made an estimate for the cost of this project. All estimates are subject to many unknown costs and should be treated as being ballpark figures. I would like Council to consider the following motion at the August meeting of Council. That staff prepare a report on the funding of a pipeline to the Peace River, using three ballpark figures for the project: 55 million, 75 million, and 100 million. The report should address the borrowing capacity of the city, taxation, water utility funds, impact on other infrastructure, possible application of fair share funding, operating costs, private sector partnerships, and any other arrangements that any other factors staff believe important in helping council come to a resolution of this issue. One of the greatest risks to the city is making the wrong decision in the matter of secure water. The cost of engineering for this project could be as high as 10 million. There is no point moving forward to the engineering phase if the total cost is beyond prudent and acceptable levels of borrowing. I would like to make the motion that is printed in bold in this,
Yes.
this memo.
Certainly. Thank you, Councillor Parslow. Is there a seconder to that motion? Councillor Schumann seconding. I just want to, I suppose, thank Councillor Parslow for this. I think this is a good approach, and I think it's important for us to look at this and consider everything in this time that we're considering things. It's an appropriate thing to do.
Well, if I'd like to speak to the motion a little
Certainly.
further.
Yeah, you go ahead.
You know, one of the other factors that Paul has brought to our attention at this meeting is that's tied into this whole shore water is, you know, revenue we receive from sale of water. So that might fit as under other factors that staff might consider to be born here. But I think, you know, we've had good engagement from the citizens of the community in this very important project. New information is emerging all the time, and but I do think we have a responsibility to move forward and get some more information as it relates to this one possible project. Other projects will come along, I'm sure, and need to be considered. But we do believe, we do want to engage the community. We do want to have a sound decision in this, and we want to have a decision that we know we've really thoroughly researched. So this is just another phase in rolling out this very important topic.
That's right.
Thank you.
That's right. Important things to identify, and I thank Councillor Parslow for it. Very good. Anybody else wish to speak to this? Hearing none, I will call the question. All those in favor of it? Those opposed? It's carried unanimously. And item 2.2 under new councillor business is Councillor Parslow regarding the provision of a car for the mayor.
Sure, I'd like to read the letter I sent to council dated July the 15th. As a follow-up to the report from the CAO, Jim Shute, on the history of the provision of a car for the mayor, presented at the meeting of council held on July the 15th, 2013, I propose the following motion to be resolved at the August meeting of council, that staff prepare a report for council on the total cost of the remaining lease payments, annual insurance, and expected routine maintenance on the mayor's vehicle, and the cost of terminating the lease of the vehicle effective September the 30th, 2013. As council faces the challenge of addressing the fiscal gap, it is prudent to examine practices that are perceived by citizens as being unnecessary for the functioning of the city. Each member of council must provide themselves with the means to travel to various functions and meetings to fulfill their duties as elected officials. Each elected official receives 1/3 of their stipend tax-free to cover out-of-pocket expenses. On reflection, I cannot rationalize why the mayor would need to have a car provided by council as well as receiving 1/3 of her stipend tax-free to cover out-of-pocket expenses. The mayor and each member of council should be expected to provide their own vehicle to travel to local functions. This motion is intended to provide information for council to make an informed decision on this matter in September 2013. So I would like to make the motion that is highlighted in this memo.
Very good. Very good. Is there a seconder to that motion? Councillor McFadden, seconding. Does anybody wish to discuss this?
I would just like to talk further to this.
Certainly.
Obviously, the question of the fiscal gap is not well understood by citizens as yet, but some conversations I've had certainly say, well, we need to get our house in order first before we start even looking at cutting services to people. And so we should look at those things. Are they truly necessary? And one of the topics that was raised amongst several others by citizens to me is the issue of the provision of a car to the mayor. And so as we move forward, I think I'm also informed by the advice I've often received from many friends in the private sector who are successful business people. You need to always keep an eye on practices and are they really necessary. As the late Ken Barrett used to always tell me, you watch every dollar, and that's how you keep on top of things. So I just put this forward, and obviously it will come again to council, but I do think we need to have the facts before we make any decisions. Thank you.
Right on. I certainly can not sympathize, but relate to Councillor Parslow. It's important to always assess the relevance of everything that you're doing, making sure that it's current and in line with current needs, and that it's reflective of, well, that our actions are reflective of the public's desire. You need to consider the conditions that you are serving under when you, well, when you make decisions to do what you do. Does anybody else wish to speak to this? No? All right, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Those opposed? And it's carried. And next item on the agenda is the minutes from the previous meetings of council for the July 15th meeting, the July 19th meeting, the July 31st meeting, and the public hearing from the July 31st meeting, and the special meeting after on July 31st, and a special meeting of council from August 2nd, 2013. Cheryl, Councillor Schumann moving to adopt the minutes, Councillor McFadden seconding. All those in favor? Carried unanimously. All right, is there any business arising from those minutes? I have one thing that I wish to ask our administrator, our administrative officer about. Jim, at the last meeting, I believe we had a bit from, well, Cal Tire about the development permit, and a condition of the development permit was them moving that fence. When can we expect that to be completed?
Through your worship, I have no idea.
Okay.
They haven't come forward with building permit plans. I assume that the fence will be moved in conjunction with the construction project, and council also directed that upon Kevin's return, staff prepare you a report about the various other issues the neighbors raised down there, and Kevin returned this morning, so you don't have the report yet.
Of course, of course. The fence is concurrent with the development permit itself. Yes, I do look forward to that report. Going to be good. All right, so I suppose we will move into correspondence. First item, I believe, in correspondence is item 5.1. What's 9 o'clock?
9 o'clock, you
Holy-
could receive delegations.
Holy.
Yeah.
Pardon me?
I say you could deal with delegations now.
Certainly. Well, we'll just move to delegations right now. I forgot what time it was. Usually we're a lot further along before then. So 9 o'clock, we'll do the delegations. Our first delegation this morning is Michelle Mobley, and well, from Dawson Creek Literacy Now, in attendance regarding the International Literacy Day proclamation. And I do have the proclamation right here. Which one have we got here? Yes, that's the one. Good morning, Michelle.
Good morning.
So perhaps you'd,
I brought my papers.
right on. Hi. So perhaps you'd like me to read aloud the proclamation first, and then we'll get you to say a little bit about it. So, whereas Canada is an increasingly information-driven society, yet approximately 9 million Canadians do not have the minimum literacy skills to be able to fully engage in the workplace or in their community. And whereas in 1966, the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization, UNESCO, named September 8th as International Literacy Day. And whereas having strong literacy skills allows us to understand information and gives us the ability to make better decisions, helping to make Canada a stronger competitor in the global economy. And whereas the focus of this year's challenge is literacies for the 21st century. Now therefore, I do hereby proclaim September 8th, 2013 as International Literacy Day in Dawson Creek. Awesome. Perhaps you'd like to speak a little bit about literacy and the event?
Yes.
Sorry, the date.
For International Literacy Day this year, we're going to be hosting a read-in at the public library. Details will be following very closely behind in the next couple of days. But we'd like to host a read-in. And with this year's theme being 21st century technologies, included in the event, we'd like to explore what does that mean, 21st century literacies being works that have been created in the 21st century. It could be how we handle literacy in the 21st century now that we have e-readers and you can read on your iPod and everything is so accessible. And then with that, also 21st century literacies, how that's opened up communication and education for people around the world. So I hope you can join us at the public library on September 8th for our meeting. So thank you very much.
Thanks very much. Item 6.2 is Jeanette, I apologize if this is the wrong pronunciation, Jeanette Lequer and Angela Ray from Aboriginal Family Services in attendance regarding Fetal Alcohol Spectrum Disorder Awareness Day. Good morning.
Morning.
How are you guys?
Angela's not here, so I brought Charlotte out.
Oh, right on, right on. So perhaps you'd like me to read out the proclamation and we'll speak a little bit about it. Whereas children are our most important resource and it is our responsibility to care for, nurture, and protect them. And whereas statistics indicate that individuals with fetal alcohol spectrum disorder face the risk of mental challenges or learning disabilities, early school dropout, homelessness, addictiveness, trouble with the law, and mental illness. And whereas fetal alcohol spectrum disorder is preventable, and to reduce the incidence of fetal alcohol spectrum disorder, it is essential that pregnant women, their partners, and the community are provided with support and information. And whereas parents, professionals, individuals living with fetal alcohol spectrum disorder, and other people around the world will observe the 9th International Fetal Alcohol Spectrum Disorder Awareness Day on September 9th, 2013, with a minute of reflection at 9:09. Now therefore, I do hereby proclaim September 9th, 2013 as Fetal Alcohol Spectrum Disorder Awareness Day in Dawson Creek. Round of applause.
Thank you.
Well, certainly, if you wish to.
FASD actually for fetal alcohol spectrum disorder is regarding moms that drink when they're pregnant and babes in utero. And so therefore what happens is that causes complex disabilities for these little babies when they grow up to be adults. And so they have day, some Bonnie Buxton and King 09 declared it international. So all over the world on September the 9th, the 9th day. And so here in Dawson Creek, we're actually at the co-op setting up tables for service providers if they'd like to participate in that and just recognize for FASD. And Trade Alcohol Syndrome has been basically around for centuries, goes right back to the biblical days. And so it's basically looking at, what we're doing in Dawson Creek is a lot of prevention, intervention, why the moms drink when they're pregnant. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
See ya.
All right. Jim, correct me if I'm wrong. The city currently has a bylaw in place to provide notice about some of the risks of FASD at entrances to washrooms in town. Isn't that right?
In liquor serving establishments, Your Worship.
Oh, okay. Right on. I see them around town. Certainly before I was on council, it was put in place. The next proclamation that we have here is for United Way Month in Dawson Creek. We have Michelle Brooke, I hope, yes, Michelle right there, in attendance from United Way, and Samantha Gibault. Yes, there you are. Is that the correct? No, I messed that up, didn't I?
Well, Sam's going to be up here anyway. She can decide which order she does this in.
How do I pronounce the last name, Sam?
Gibault.
Gibault, okay. All right. Won't mess it up next time.
Sure, let's do this one first.
Do
That's
that first. Follow the agenda.
Yeah, exactly. So it's really informal. On July 29th, we welcomed Mr. John Hart to the Alaska Highway House, and he actually presented us with a gift. And so I want to present it to council just so everyone can see it. Flip any direction.
Beautiful.
It is. And so these are the three men that were part of the Devil's Brigade in 1942, and they were from Dawson Creek. And so this was to commemorate their participation. Sure. And he handmade everything in this, so it was a great gift to us. And we're going to mount it in the Alaska Highway House. We'll go and present it to council first. Yeah.
That's very good.
So it's a great event. It was really well attended, close to 40 people. It was great.
Well, unfortunately, I wasn't able to attend myself, but yes, that's very, very nice.
It's great.
What are the three names there, Sam?
Sure. Jeffrey Hart, Andy Olson, and Gordon Baker.
Thank you.
That's such a incredible respect for those gentlemen.
Yes, and it only became known in the last 5 years. It was very top secret at the time. But the lineage of the Devil's Brigade actually created Marines and Special Forces in the Canadian American military. So it's pretty incredible. Yes. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Sam. I don't know
We
what-
need a couple of minutes to set up the PowerPoint.
Certainly, certainly. So we'll recess for a few minutes while we get set up for the presentation from Michelle Brooke.
Right.
I will just pull it up here, forgive me for a moment. I'm gonna mute my computer. All right, I've got it pulled up here. So I'll call the meeting back to order. We left off, we recessed, I believe, before item 6.4, which was Michelle Brooke and Samantha Gibault. Right. Regarding United Way Month for September in Dawson Creek. So I believe we have a presentation from the delegation, and I certainly welcome you to the meeting. Thanks very much for coming.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Yeah.
Good morning, Your Worship, councillors, ladies and gentlemen present here today. I want to thank you for this opportunity to talk to you about the work that United Way does in the north, and especially in the city of Dawson Creek. My name is Michelle Brooke, and I'm the Community Development and Campaign Officer for the Northeast. Terry Shepherd was supposed to join me this morning, but unfortunately he's had to go to an urgent meeting. He is the General Manager and the General Sales Manager for Bell Media, and he's also a board member of United Way. United Way Northern BC is a not-for-profit organisation. We serve 2/3 of the province of northern BC, from Quesnel to the Yukon border in the north, and from Haida-Gwaii to the Alberta border in the east. The area encompasses 22 communities, 80 First Nations communities, and about 30,000 residents. The area has been divided into the northeast, the north central, and the northwest sections. My colleague and I service the northeast sections. Our office is located in Fort St. John, and it's been in operation since 2006. My colleague serves the North Peace communities, and I serve the South Peace communities, namely Dawson Creek, Chetwynd, Tumbler Ridge, and all the areas in between. What does United Way of Northern BC do? Our mission is to improve lives and build community by investing in strategic programs and services that address community-specific needs and issues. Our work is focused on three main pillars or areas, namely from poverty to possibility, healthy people, strong communities, and all that kids can be. Why do we do it? We believe that everyone deserves a chance to live up to their potential and to contribute to their community, and we want all people to thrive in their communities. As a community development officer, I sit on many tables and attend many meetings. Our community development work includes that we provide leadership and support to the not-for-profit sector. Examples of this would be board training and grant writing workshops. We also work closely with the not-for-profit sector to identify program and service gaps in the community. And we work with community partners to find long-term sustainable solutions to community issues. We invest in programs and services that are evidence-based, community-centered, impact-focused, change-driven, and outcome-measured. As a campaign officer, I address groups and make presentations. We fundraise and we build resource partnerships in order to make funds available to invest in the needed programs and services. And we also monitor the effectiveness of the funded programs and services and provide accountability to individual and corporate donors that support us. The United Way invests in regional programs and services from 4 different organizations. These services are freely available to all people living throughout northern BC, regardless of which community they live in. I was fortunate enough recently to visit these organizations and spend some time with them, hearing about the tremendous work that they do and the challenges that they face. Spinal Cord Injury BC provide peer programming and information resources for individuals living with spinal cord injury, and they also provide support for families and friends. There are over 12,000 people living with spinal cord injury in BC, and every year 500 new cases of spinal cord injury occur in the province. CNIB stands for the Canadian National Institute of the Blind. They deal with individuals who are experiencing vision loss and blindness, and they provide one-on-one rehabilitation and support services to their clients. Currently, they provide services to 175 individuals in Dawson Creek. The Crisis Centre of Northern BC runs a crisis suicide line as well as a youth support line. Over the last year, they responded to 1,300 crisis calls from people all over the north. Some of these were from Dawson Creek. NBIA is the Northern Brain Injury Association. They provide support and prevention services, education, and support families. Every day, there are 38 new cases of brain injury in BC, a total of 14,000 cases a year. Did you know that acquired brain injury is the leading cause of death and disability amongst Canadians under the age of 40? Success by Six is a well-known program. It is a joint initiative between United Way, the credit unions of BC, the BC government through the Ministry of Child and Family Development, and various community leaders. Their programs help to ensure that children between the ages of 0 to 6 develop the emotional, social, cognitive, and physical skills that they need to be provides opportunities and strategies for parents to interact with their children in a positive way, promoting healthy relationships and early childhood development. Each community has their own table and is run independently. The coordinator for Dawson Creek is Heidi Kaskardis, and we know that every dollar invested in early childhood programs equates to about a $7 return on investment in later years. Examples of funded programs would be things like the annual Children's Preschool Health Fair and Screening, annual Baby Welcome Party, National Child and Family Day celebrations, early learning and family resources, training and support for early childhood educators and caregivers, summer day camps, family fun nights, family food skills cooking classes, outdoor and indoor playgrounds, swimming lessons for preschoolers, and Aboriginal early childhood education. Better at Home was formerly known as CASI, Community Action for Seniors Independent. It changed its name to Better at Home at the beginning of this year. It is a province-wide program funded by the Government of BC, managed by the United Way of the Lower Mainland, and coordinated locally by the United Way of Northern BC. This program is designed to help seniors aged 65 and older to remain independent and living in their homes longer and to stay connected with their communities. Non-medical services are provided by local not-for-profit agencies. Services would include things such as house and garden maintenance, snow shoveling, friendly visits, transportation, and light housework. We also make local investments. This past year, our investment was made with the Ladybug program, which is run through the Nawican Friendship Centre. It is a child interaction program facilitated by an ECE and an elder who focuses on cultural teachings such as Cree language, storytelling, traditional arts and crafts. It is open to everyone. It is run twice a week, all year long, and it focuses on school readiness for children. They have identified that there is a need for more full-day facilities within Dawson Creek, and they are currently working on becoming a full-day care facility. United Way of Northern BC has had great success with the Mentor Me Youth Networking Initiative. This is run out of the Prince George and Queen's areas. This program strives to slow down the brain drain of our educated and trained young people down south and getting them connected with mentors in their own communities. We are currently looking for funding in order to bring this initiative into other northern areas as well. Each year we have an awareness building piece and we do special events. To mark the campaign, we host a kick-off event in each community. For Dawson Creek, I'm currently working on doing a water truck pull, and this will be a first-time event for Dawson Creek. It is a fun event, and it is a great way to engage and raise funds and for funds to flow back into the community. We need your support. During the 2012 campaign, United Way raised just a little over $1 million. We invested $1.89 million in communities all over the north. This September, we kick off our 2013 campaign. Our goal this year is to raise $1.5 million. This figure will only address half of the need. It is estimated that around $3 million is needed before we can even begin to adequately meet the needs that are identified in the communities in the north. Why should you support United Way? We work across all sectors and throughout all regions. We seek to find long-term solutions, and we are not issue-specific. We work together to make sustainable changes and advance the common good of all people in all communities throughout Northern BC. 90 cents of every dollar raised is invested into programs and services. Funds raised in the North stay in the North. I thank you for your time and hope that you will assist me in becoming champions and advocating the work that we do. Please visit our website and like us on our Facebook page. And as a token of our appreciation today, Your Worship, if I could present you with a small gift from United Way.
Is that right? Awesome. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
I've got something for you as well. Of course, it's a proclamation.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll have
Thank
to read
you.
it here. Goes with the proclamation itself. I ought to open this right now, right? So everybody can see. It is Christmas. Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you very much, Michelle.
It's a
That's
pleasure.
awesome. Thank you. Oh, what else? We've got,
There's a pen and some paper and some mints, and there is a decal. I don't know if you could put that up anywhere.
I'm sure we can find use for it somewhere.
Super.
Thank you very much, Michelle. I appreciate it.
Pleasure.
Certainly, certain council appreciates it as well. And thank you for your presentation. I think it's, well, the work of United Way is, well, you know, being committed to improving lives and building community. There's not many higher pursuits than that. So just thank you for your work and everything that you do in northern BC and all around the country. So that's a good seg, I believe, if there's no objection, into our proclamation here. Is that, I can go ahead? All right. Whereas the United Way contributes to the health, safety, and well-being of northern BC communities by investing in programs and services that ensure people who are struggling get back on their feet, that people get healthy and stay healthy, both physically and mentally, and that kids get the education and opportunities that they deserve. And whereas the United Way improves lives and builds community by engaging individuals and mobilizing collective action, now therefore I do hereby proclaim September as United Way Month in Dawson Creek.
Thank you very much.
Come take a picture for you. Perfect. And is it okay if we just do one more thing for our kickoff in September?
Wow.
So Michelle, Tourism Dawson Creek has partnered this year with United Way to assist in the kickoff event in September. So we're hoping on September 14th to do a Shell vac or hydrovac truck pull. And what we really need is we're looking for a venue. So Michelle has said last year in Fort St. John they did in front of the Pomeroy Sports Center. And so it has to be flat. So I thought, well, how about the NAR Park? It's centrally located. There could be parking. And then it's usually a morning event, so 10:30 would be a pancake breakfast, register the teams, and then 11 o'clock would be the pull. It's community focused, so we're fundraising for the United Way of the North as well. But we give out prizes for best dressed, most money raised, fastest time, so it'd be a great event. We're just curious if we're able to use the NAR Park, and then Tourism Dawson Creek can assist with any other planning or coordination of logistics.
Beautiful. I believe council's considering that under correspondence a little bit later this meeting. Yeah, and you do have in the letter there that you've got a vac truck all lined up to pull across the parking lot.
That's yeah, Michelle's done all the work, so I
Right
just
on.
came in at the last minute.
Yep, yep, that's cool. That's very neat.
We'll think
All
it'd be
right.
great.
September 14th,
Council's going to be away to.
Election Day.
Oh, is it really? Oh, yes, it is. Holy.
I was thinking, what?
What other
What
date
is
is
that
that?
number?
Yes.
What is that date?
Yeah. Mr. Councilor McFadden.
Just a question, Michelle, thank you for coming in today. Did I understand you to say that you were helping or assisting 175 folks in Dawson Creek that are visually impaired?
Yes,
That many?
that many.
Seems like a lot, I guess.
Those are the figures that were given to us from
Sure.
CRB. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, I thank you one more time for your attendance. It's awesome. We look forward to the event on the 14th, and we wish you all the best. If council has no other comments that they wish to provide, certainly you're
Well, just further to my illustrious friend's comments, there are a lot of seniors get help through that program. You know, they're not necessarily, they're visually impaired, so with reading materials and so on, a lot of the seniors.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah. I'm gonna throw this computer down here. So right back to business. We've got, we were in correspondence before 9 o'clock met us, and we headed into delegations. Thank you very much, Tyra. I believe that we did not, that we stopped actually before we began item 5.1. So item 5.1 is a letter from BC Hydro regarding scheduling appointments at the 2013 UBCM convention. I look to council.
I'd like to
Councillor
move to
Parslow.
receive it for information.
Okay, very good. Councillor McFadden seconding. Is there any discussion on this? All right, hearing none. I will call the question. All those in favor? Nobody opposed. It's carried. Item 5.2 is a letter from Sensible Change Society regarding Sensible Policing Act. Councillor Parslow.
Move that we receive it for information.
I'll second that, if you don't mind. Is there any discussion on this motion? No? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Carried unanimously. Item 5.3, letter from Northern Health regarding the Health Officers Council workshop in Fort St. John on October 7th and 8th, 2013. Asking for our attendance, I believe, or some participation from our municipality in some way. I'll look to council, I suppose. Does council wish to send a representative to this workshop?
I would just move that we receive it for information.
Is that right?
Mm.
Would that, Councillor McFadden seconding, would that effectively kill it and we wouldn't participate? Is that right? Councillor Schumann.
I would think that if any one of us wanted to participate in this, we'd just have to let the office know and they would register us, I'm sure.
Is that right?
Through your worship, I believe they make reference to limited spacing, and what they're looking for is one representative from each community. And they've asked for a confirmation of attendance. However, the event isn't until October, so I would assume we could diarize this item for after the municipal election.
Is that too late for a response to Northern Health, though?
They haven't really indicated a date for a response.
Okay. All right. Yes, you are right. I just said call or confirm quickly. But certainly we can refer that to later, or receive for information. That's the motion right now. I will call the question. All those in favor? Carried unanimously. And 5.4 is a letter from Sheila DaCosta regarding the senior user fee age qualification change at the swimming pool. The second of such letters that we've seen about our rates out at the pool. I look to council. Councillor Schumann.
For information, please.
Seconder. Councillor McFadden is seconding. I certainly go ahead, Councillor Parslow.
I noticed her very last sentence reads, "I await a positive response." Now, can't. I guess I'm asking, are we going to respond to this letter? And if so, how?
I believe every motion that council does, when we receive for information, we contact
get a
the
letter.
Ms. DaCosta to say that we've received it for information. Councillor
Through
Mr.
your
Schumann.
worship, if the motion to receive for information passes, Mrs. DaCosta will get a letter thanking her for bringing it to your attention and indicating you elected to take no action. That doesn't mean that she will view that as a positive response, but it will be a response.
Oh, what am I raising my hand for? Sorry. I am asleep at the wheel here. Jim, I did have a couple of questions about some of the concerns that she identified. I believe that the seniors rate through the process that we did with our fees and charges was actually recommended to go down, but of course was frozen at the current levels until the rates caught up with themselves. The drastic fee change that she identifies here from $4.45 to $7 per session is actually due to the difference in classification of a senior under the new policy. I was just hoping maybe to initiate a discussion about how exactly it was recommended to go from 60 to 65 throughout this process.
Through your worship, if that question's directed to me, when
Yes,
you
it
worked
was,
through
sorry.
the workshop, one of the things that the consultant you employed brought to your attention was that there was no consistency in your seniors definition across your various functions, and so he suggested you recognize the fact that first there was a discussion at the workshop about whether any seniors discount should apply at any time, rather than a need-based discount, a age-based discount.
Yeah.
And you elected to continue that, and in the same context, you elected to raise the rate, the age at the pool to 65, which is where it was for many other facilities.
Mm-hmm.
Continuity.
That's right. That's right. Consistency. Councillor Parslow.
Yes, well, I guess when I asked the question, I mean, a lot of work went into the policy. And thanks to Jim for the reminder, because I knew there was a reason why there was a change, but I'd forgotten that. So I would, I wonder if the rationalization of the, or consistency shouldn't be part of our response. Because it is a fair change, but that there was lots of consultation, and I'm all for consistency, and that's Jim's reminder was I know a selling point, because it was probably the biggest change, I think, in the swimming area there. But I do think we do have to strive for consistency.
Certainly. So is that a amendment I hear, or just not necessary?
Just a reflection.
Just a reflection. Mr. Shute?
Through your worship, of course, letters we received in this regard, and I understand a petition is coming forward based on the wording in the letter, seem to assume that if the individual doesn't pay, money somehow materializes to cover the costs. It doesn't materialize. What we do is we put it on this notice we send around to you, and you pay it to us. So at the moment, you've concluded that when you do reach 65, you will pay 25% of the cost of your swim. And the general taxpayers on that notice we send around will pay 75%. For an adult, which is how Mrs. DaCosta is currently classified, she'll pay 50% of the cost of her swim, and that tax notice will pay for the other 50%. This money does not materialize magically. Either the user pays it or the taxpayer pays it.
Important thing to identify. You know, it's some of the concerns in the letter. Obviously, council's committed to providing opportunities for seniors. You know, item 17 in our policy is all about that, but it's just in the interest of consistency, and I think that's a important thing to highlight in our correspondence with her.
Well, just one further comment. I mean, not wishing to, what's the word, denigrate what's been said in the letter here, and the petition may be forthcoming, but you know, the Aquafit program requires special staff, additional staff to lifeguards. So, and it's a great program, well used. I'm all for it. But it's not the regular staff, lifeguard staff. The staff have to be supplemented with Aquafit instructors, which have to be paid. So that's an additional cost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thank council for their discussion of this topic. There's no further comments.
Need to vote on it, yeah.
Necessary, yes. I was going to call the question. All those in favor? And opposed? It's carried unanimously. Item 5.5 is next on the agenda. It's a letter from United Way of Northern BC regarding a request for permission to host for permission for venue to host a special event in Dawson Creek here. Councillor Schumann.
I would like to move that we provide the NAR Park, should there not be something else scheduled on that day, to the United Way for their event. It sounds interesting and fun.
Awesome. Is there a second? Councillor McFadden is seconding that motion. It does look like a good event. It's pretty interesting what's been identified here. We don't have any, I don't think, breach of policy or protocol with lending out the NAR Park to United Way. Mr. Chu?
Through your worship, you have no fee structure for the NAR Park, and you from time to time have allowed the exclusive use of the parking lot for one event or another. And this one certainly can be accommodated. There's no other event booked that day.
I just look at that with I just asked that question with our fees and charges policy amendments that I read through last night in mind. One more question to our administrator, I suppose, is typically it's a fire truck pull. Nobody's indicated to anybody from the city that a fire truck might be a interesting object to pull. Well, as interesting or possibly more interesting than a vac truck. No?
Is that a question?
I'd rather pull a fire truck.
We actually haven't had any discussion about why United Way has chosen a water truck or a vac truck.
Okay, all right. I was just wondering, because it'd be kind of neat. Councillor Parslow.
Yeah, further to that, I mean, this is we've got already a partnership established between United Way and Shell, so let's stay there. But
Let's keep it that way.
and this is just I noticed that the event insurance is in place, but I guess it's just a question to Jim here that it's customary, is it not, that we make sure that the cities are covered under that insurance? Isn't there a procedure we have to follow?
Through your worship, we would be asking to be named. And there's also a request for us to put up barricading, so
Okay.
it would all be part of your permission.
Yeah.
Very, very good. Very good. If we are ready for the question, Councillor Parslow?
No, I
Oh, okay.
put my hand up in support of the motion.
Very enthusiastically. All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried unanimously. I do believe that under correspondence we have a late item this morning. I trust that all the members have received it and read through it. Yes, it's from Mr. Shane Anderson regarding Rotary Lake and smoking areas. What is council's wish? Councillor Parslow?
I move that we receive this letter as information, and I'll talk to it a little later after, if there's a seconder. Okay.
Sure. Councillor McFadden is seconding the motion to receive for information. Councillor Parslow? Discussion?
I've forwarded this matter to the chairman of the Mile Zero Park Society, Dale Campbell, and it will be on the next agenda.
Mm-hmm.
But I imagine to Jim here that the procedure would be, if the Mile Zero Park Society expresses support for this concept, then a letter would come from the Mile Zero Park Society to the city to establish such a space. Is that correct?
Through your worship, the procedure would have to go in that fashion because the current lease with Mile Zero Park Society doesn't obligate them to have a designated smoking section. It certainly doesn't speak to how you would enforce a smoking only section. Those details would have to be worked out in a lease. unless council was also putting resources to having a bylaw enforcement officer on site at the Rotary Lake throughout the summer. So, you know, this property is not in the control of the city at the moment. It's owned by the city, but it's controlled under a lease to Miles Road Park Society, so clearly they have to be involved in the discussion.
Yeah. Very good. Motion to receive for information on the floor. And oh, Councillor Parslow.
No, I'm voting
Oh,
for
you're
it.
voting?
Yeah.
Okay. I will call the question. All those in favor? And opposed, and it's carried unanimously. One more time. So we will move straight into reports, I suppose. The first report that we have this morning is item 7.1, a report, well, report number 13-180 from the Director of Corporate Administration regarding the Election Day Transit Service. Councillor
I'd like to
Parslow.
move that report number 13-180 from the Director of Corporate Administration re-voting day transit service be received. Further, that Council authorise administration to waive fees for BC Transit within the City of Dawson Creek on Saturday, September the 14th, 2013.
Awesome. Councillor Schumann is seconding. Is there anybody that wishes to speak to this?
Just point out, Your Worship, you'll be able to travel between the vac truck pull and the election
Hey,
for free.
hey, that's right, that's right. And the only negative costs that were identified in the report was the loss of, well, the expected loss of revenue of $112 typical for a Saturday. That would be the only extra cost, eh? Yeah,
That's correct.
all right. I'm just talking to myself, I guess. Is anybody else wishing to speak? No? All right, all those in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Item 7.2 is report number 13-192 from the Director of Corporate Administration regarding a lease agreement for farming for Ted Cousins.
I'd like to
Councillor
move the
Parslow.
recommendation that report number 13-192 from the Director of Corporate Administration re-lease agreement for farming Ted Cousins be received. Further, the administration be authorised to renew the lease agreement with Mr. Ted Cousins for farming the quarter section bordered by 227 Road on the west and the 208 Road on the south, legally described as the Southwest Quarter, Section 13, Township 78, W6M PRLD 44, it's set Parcel A, G23079. Further, that should Council terminate the agreement prior to the 2014 harvest, that Mr. Cousins be reimbursed for the cost of the 2013 fall weed and fertilizer for the property.
Very good. Councillor McFadden is seconding. Is there any discussion on this? Hearing none, I will call the question. All those in favor? No one opposed? It's carried unanimously. Item 7.3 is report number 13-196 from the Chief Financial Officer regarding curbside recycling, Multi-Material BC, notification of incentive funding offer. Councillor Schumann.
I'd move that report number 13-196 from the Chief Financial Officer regarding curbside recycling, MMBC notification of incentive funding officer be received. Further, that staff be directed to notify Multi-Material British Columbia of the city's interest in accepting MMBC's offer of financial incentives being offered under the packing and printed paper stewardship plan.
Awesome. Is there a seconder? I will second the motion for discussion. Does anybody wish to speak to this? Councillor McFadden.
A question through you, Your Worship, probably to staff, but my question is, will this have a negative impact on the existing recycling facility in Dawson Creek? I think they've done a really good job, and I'm just concerned that we're slowly going to put them out of business. They are local, and where will these folks that do this curbside recycling deposit it to? Take it to Fort St. John, or will they be using the Dawson Creek facility, or do we know?
I suppose I'll let staff comment on that. They could do it most adequately.
Yeah, through your worship. Two things to answer that question. First, what we know to date is that Dawson Creek Recycling is interested in being a qualified processor. Whether he is chosen by the province, we don't know. And the selection of the processor lies with MMBC, so we have no control over who they choose. It's one of the uncertainties of the whole program.
Very good. Is that all right, Councillor?
Well, I don't like it, but that's the answer. That's
Okay.
the answer, yeah. I don't care
Councillor
for it, but.
Councillor Parslow?
It's not,
Sorry, Councillor Parslow?
Yeah, this is a hard one in a sense. Many communities have curbside recycling. It's certainly one of the strategic directions we had. We had a presentation on this, and as I recall, you know, we were looking in that proposal. The contractor wanted some certainty as to relates to number of years of contract, that we would have efficiencies from the point of view of recycled material picked up one week and non-recyclable material the other week. We were committed to, I thought, to a public consultation process, and this decision would pull the rug from that public consultation, as I understand it in your report. And so where would this decision put, I guess, the public consultation process? Am I right in my understanding in your report? And secondly, where would that put the, I guess, the regular pickup picture for garbage in the community?
Good
So through
questions.
your worship, in response to those questions, what you had contemplated was a public consultation process to determine if the citizens desired to have curbside recycling, and in what fashion. Multi-Materials BC has decided that throughout BC, where feasible, there's going to be curbside recycling. If you accept the recommendation, what will happen is those public consultation meetings will not be about whether there will be recycling. They'll be about what the design of it is. Is it every second week, with the alternative week being regular garbage, or is it in addition to your regular collections? Do we go to mandated containers? Do we express a preference for it going to DC recycling as opposed to some other processing center? That would be the purpose of the public consultation. It would be about designing a system rather than whether or not you would have a system. If we decline, it will be up to Mixed Material or Multi-Materials BC to decide what they will do in Dawson Creek, and I don't know whether they'll do consultations or not.
Okay, thank you. So I'll be supporting the motion. Has the motion been seconded?
Yeah,
It
Councillor
has. Okay,
McFadden, I
good.
believe.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Councillor McFadden?
when it talks about curbside recycling, I did see a reference in here to paper that would be banded up. Would this also include soft drink cans and bottles and plastics, or just the easy stuff? Like, what about electronics, TVs and radios and that sort of stuff?
How your math actually either can answer that.
Yeah,
Sure,
through
go
your
ahead.
worship, the actual work plan and service agreement that we have to date has a whole list of what will be accepted and what won't. There's two streams, single stream or multi-stream. We're proposing single stream, but some of the exclusions that we do know are glass and some foam packaging. Now, I don't know if Matthew helped me out a lot on this report. Do you know anything about the electronics part?
I can't speak to the electronics. It would be my impression that they wouldn't be included, but I would want to refer to the literature on that.
Very good.
Well, then I can't support this.
No? Yeah, certainly. I wasn't calling a vote or anything like
Before
that.
he gets all convinced over
I just
there.
want to make sure that Councillor's satisfied with
So,
response. Go
just
ahead.
so that Councillor McFadden's aware, I'm sure that your electronics and things would still be accepted at the recycle depot. as
If-
they
if
are
they're-
now,
if
because
they're-
there
if
are EPR programs regarding
If they're
electronics.
not
in
put
the
out of
province.
business by a multinational corporation.
Mhm. Anyway,
Thank you.
you will still be able to take your electronics.
Your worship, I don't mean to minimize, I wouldn't want to minimize the concern Councillor McFadden is bringing forward. If MMBC decides that Dawson Creek Recycling is not suitable to be certified as a processing point,
Mhm.
and they go ahead with their own, or we go ahead with recycling, in either way, that stream of revenue for Dawson Creek Recycling would be directed elsewhere, and it could be Fort St. John, and it could be the Lower Mainland, and it's absolutely true that if MMBC, as they design the processing part of the program, doesn't certify Dawson Creek Recycling, the likely effect is the Dawson Creek Recycling won't be able to carry on. But I don't know that that changes whether we do it or MMBC does it. What's important there is the decision about BC Recycling as a certified processing point. If we're not in, we'll have no input into that decision. If we are in, we'll have the opportunity to at least advance our belief that they should be certified.
So just one quick
Go
thing.
ahead, go ahead.
So if we were to decline this offer, are you saying that they could and will probably come in and do it themselves anyway?
That is the scheme, your worship.
That's what's
We're in
indicated.
this process of qualifying offers. Those places where the municipality or whoever is doing garbage collection, in some cases it's regional districts, those who do not accept the qualifying offer, those places, MMBC is still required to determine a method by which multi-materials are recycled. That's now provincial legislation, so they will have to find a way of covering off the municipalities or areas where there otherwise is no recycling. And they will yes, it's entirely possible that 2 days or every week you would have a regular garbage truck come down your street and pick up your garbage, and at some other point you would have a recycling truck come by and pick up your garbage or your recycling, and they'd be different trucks from different people on different schedules with different containers. That's entirely possible.
Yeah. Councillor Schumann?
Whereas if we accept this offer and have input into it, we could plan and have our own system to take into consideration.
That was actually my one of my questions, Councillor Schumann. If we were to accept these multi-material, well, accept in principle these incentives, this is a question directed to staff, wouldn't we have the autonomy to direct where the recyclables go?
Actually, your worship, no. One of the big issues you see in the report is that the proposed agreement with MMBC has service levels and standards that are
Oh, yeah.
one size fits all. They don't reflect what we're doing now, and we've been told that there is some room for negotiation, and we certainly hope that to be the case, because it's definitely not the case, for instance, that we could simply choose DC Recycling. They would have to be certified in a different process before we could direct materials there. And of course, as Ms. Wolf is telling you, we prefer baled single stream that is transported somewhere else for sorting. But that's not necessarily what MMBC will require.
So if we were to say decline this offer today, is this just a one-shot deal? Could could we have an opportunity in a year from now, perhaps, to opt on board?
Through your worship, I can't really answer that question. They are saying no, but we're kind of playing poker with them. I don't know what their cards really are. I don't know if this is a take it or leave. It's portrayed as a take it or leave it deadline to accept, then they'll move in their own direction. And I'm sure that would be true in a large revenue center like Kamloops. They'll have no shortage of people willing to do this work for them in Kamloops. In more remote locations, I'm not sure that they will have the same availability of contractors and that sort of thing. So, I mean, it's possible that, there'll be another deadline at a different point in time. I can't answer that.
Councillor Parslow?
Notwithstanding the very critical points that been raised about our own recycling plant and so on. And the fact that I am having a bit of a deja vu, for some reason I'm thinking about the government's, provincial government's implementation of the HST tax,
Yeah.
That I am reluctantly, in some ways reluctantly supporting this, because I think I'm all for recycled stuff, curbside recycling, it would be handy. And I'm relying on our CEO's, and I have to say belief, that we will have significant say in the design of the local deliverable, and it's on that basis that I'm going along with the motion, but I do want us to have be prepared for strong representation so that we don't undo the good stuff that we have as well. Yeah.
Walk through this process with a strong will. Yeah.
And I'm not trying to say that, Jim's made it clear there's no guarantees here, but there's the opportunity. And
that's right.
Yeah.
Mr. Shute?
Through your worship, staff went back and forth on this several times. Shelley, Matt, myself. Some days you would say, yes, let's take it on. Some days you would say, no. There just seems to be too many unknowns. The reason you have the recommendation you have is because at the end of the day, what tends to drive people nuts is what we have here is two orders of government, provincial and municipal, talking about running different trucks down the same street to do the same job at double the price. And
there's only one taxpayer.
While we argue about control, I'm not sure that's a good enough reason to double those costs up. Because, yes, they're providing us incentive, but how they're getting that is you pay for it as you buy your pop. So it really is only one taxpayer. I think that taxpayer would assume we should try to work this out. That's our feeling.
That's I can very, very much sympathize with that, Jim. That was one of the things I hoped to identify before discussion on this topic ended, because that wouldn't make a whole lot of sense to me. Anybody else wish to speak? No? Hearing no further discussion, I will call the question on the recommendation here. All those in favor? All those opposed? Councillor McFadden? It is carried. Thank you, Council, for your robust discussion. Next item is 13-198 from the Chief Financial Officer regarding the consolidated budget variance report. I suppose, Councillor Parslow.
I'd like to move that report number 13-198 from the Chief Financial Officer read June the 30th, 2013 consolidated budget variance report be received for information.
Very good. Councillor Schumann is seconding. I suppose, Jim, if it's appropriate, I will kick it off to our CFO.
If there are any questions, Your Worship.
Sure. It seemed to me that things are going along quite nicely. We're halfway through the year. Good shape. Councillor McFadden.
I'll move that report number 13-1. Have we done that already?
Yes.
Yeah.
Who seconded it?
It's Schumann.
Shall.
Question.
Good move.
Really?
Good move.
Question.
All right. Yeah.
I'm
Councillor.
voting. Yes, he's. Questions
Still on
been
the road
called.
here. We gotta play the game.
In 2
On
days,
Wednesday.
Terry.
I
In
know,
2
that's
days.
that's my point.
All right, Councillor Parslow, did you wish to speak to this? Okay. All right. All those in favor of the recommendation? None opposed. It is carried. Item 7.5 is report number 13-182 from the Deputy Director of Community Services regarding the Montreal Canadiens alumni game. Speeding my language up here, Terry.
Atta boy.
Yeah, you bet. Yes, Councillor Schumann.
Thank you. I'd move that report number 13-182 from the Director of Community Services regarding hosting a Montreal Canadiens alumni hockey game be received. Further, the Council approve the attached agreement to secure the date, Friday, February 7th, 2014 at the Memorial Arena.
Very good. Councillor McFadden is seconding. Councillor Parslow?
Yeah, I'm not very comfortable with this at all. But maybe I'm misreading this. So my concern is here we have the city organizing a fundraising event for a club and assuming the risk of absorbing any costs should a loss be incurred in this venture. So my question to administration is, do we do this for other organizations who engage in fundraising, that we organize or very, very involved in organizing the event? That may be true for some things, I'm not sure, but do we assume the financial risk?
Administration.
Yes, through your worship, the most similar event that we have done this for was the U18 Women's National Championship. Similarly, their council took on the risk of running that event, used volunteers from Dawson Creek Minor Hockey to supplement paid staff, and the quote profit from the event was distributed to BC Hockey and to Dawson Creek Minor Hockey. So yes, we have done this in the past in furtherance of holding events. And so this item is on your agenda under the basis that we continue to try to promote events in the city. And this time the beneficiary would be the Senior Canucks. But you know, if council's not comfortable with that, that's fine by us as well. This is it's an opportunity to hold an event in the Memorial Arena.
Mm-hmm. Question that nobody else. Question that I had about this was: is this alumni game sort of seen as? Is this sort of originating because of the success of the under-18 event that we had last year?
Through your worship, I don't believe so. No, I believe this is I believe the Montreal Canadiens alumni promote their business and have identified Dawson Creek as a location they haven't been to for several years. And I believe they were the ones that made the outreach.
Okay. Gotcha. Those are some. Councillor McFadden's looking at me pretty with a glare there. We better get things going for him.
Can I, just a question to
Certainly.
Mr. Raynard. I'll be supporting this as long as I can dress for it. Is that, that'd be okay?
My understanding is that the Senior Canucks are providing the opposition, and if they wish to have you in goal,
So be it.
so be it.
I think there's an age limit of 35, which Terry is just going to fit into. That'd be perfect. All right. Council is ready. Maybe I'll call the question.
Thank you.
All those in favor of recommendation? Those opposed? Councillor Parslow? It is passed. Item 7.6, report number 13-190 from the Director of Infrastructure and Sustainable Development regarding development permit application for Harewood Developments Incorporated, 1812 Willowbrook Crescent. Look to council for action. Councillor Schumann.
I would move report number 13-190 from the Director of Infrastructure and Sustainable Development regarding the development permit application from Harewood Developments Incorporated at 1812 Willowbrook Crescent be received. Further, that the development permit number 13-23 for the development of a 9-unit residential complex at 1812 Willowbrook Crescent be authorized in principle and issued upon successful completion of the required 10-day notification period and receipt of the financial security.
Is there a seconder to that motion? Councillor McFadden. Right. Good to see something going up there.
Your
Mr.
worship, just for a little context here, as you know, council had approved a strata conversion for the neighboring property that resulted in considerable investment into that neighboring property, but at the cost of the fact that there was some displacement of
Yes.
existing residences or tenants and a general upward tick in the affordability of the neighboring property. However, it has had the effect of changing the environment in that area so that that vacant lot is now suitable for development. So these are the kind of trade-offs council makes all the time. Over the long haul, affordability is going to be realized when we have more and more units available. That's what will ultimately bring the price down.
Mhm.
So it appears as though that part of what you're trying to accomplish seems to be coming true.
Mhm. Yeah, this isn't a, this is a vacant, this is just a new construction, not a conversion or anything like that.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. All those in favor? All those opposed? It's carried unanimously. Item 7.7, report number 13-191 from the Director of Infrastructure and Sustainable Development regarding the development permit application for Upper Montney Developments Limited. Councillor Parslow.
Move that report number 13-191 from the Director of Infrastructure and Sustainable Development redevelopment permit application from Upper Montney Developments Limited for 904 100A Avenue be received. Further, development permit number 13-19 be amended to include the following two conditions. That drainage work be completed in accordance with the letter from Wedler Engineering dated August 6, 2013. That damage to the gravel parking area at 10033 9th Street be repaired in accordance with the letter from Upper Montney Developments Limited, dated August 2, 2013. And further, the staff be authorised to issue development permit number 13-19 to Upper Montney Developments Limited for the construction of a new apartment building at 904 100A Avenue.
All right, is there a seconder? Councillor McFadden is seconding. Beautiful. There were a few concerns here that were identified, but again, this option indicated on how to proceed, I think is... Oh, sorry, Mr. Shute.
Through your worship, there's one additional item that's come to our attention since this item was placed on the agenda, and that's regarding 3.6 in the development permit requirements, which is that the water line shall be looped from 100A Avenue to 100 on 9th Street. The developer has submitted that that is an unnecessary requirement and asks for relief on that provision, and I'd like Kevin to speak to that if that's okay with council.
Certainly, yeah.
Through your worship, that was a requirement that we had asked for early in the process. Subsequently, their engineers and our engineers have looked at it and determined that it's not necessary due to the fire roads, so they can do without it. It's something that staff, I mean, it would be a nice to have, but it's not a must to have, I guess is how I would put it. It would certainly provide some redundancy and some additional flows, but it's not required for the construction of the apartment buildings.
So we're speaking about a, that is not identified here. Jim, that's correct, eh? So we ought to amend this.
If that is your will, as Kevin was mentioning, staff would love to have that, but it would be a requirement placed on this developer over and above requirements we would place on other developers.
Mm-hmm.
So in response to the engineering study that says the loop would only give a 7% increase in flows, which is not required for fire, we would suggest that you amend the development permit by striking.
Very good.
3.6.
Councillor Schumann is moving an amendment.
Yes.
Okay.
Seconded.
Councillor Parslow is seconding. Very good. Is there any discussion on the amendment? No? All those in favor of the amendment? Carried. And I suppose I'll call it on, unless there's any further discussion, I'll call it on the original, or the question as amended. All those in favor? And it's carried. Very good. Item 7.8, report 13-195 from the Director of Infrastructure and Sustainable Development regarding the development permit for Parkland Industries at 2801 92nd Avenue. Councillor Parslow.
I move that report number 13-195 from the Director of Infrastructure and Sustainable Development redevelopment permit application from Parkland Industries Limited, D. Mason Distributors Incorporated for 2801 92nd Avenue be received. Further, development permit number 13-24 for the construction of the light industrial building at 2801 92nd Avenue be authorised in principle and issued upon successful completion of the required 10-day notification period and receipt of the financial security.
Very good. Councillor Schumann seconding. Good news story. I will call the question. All those in favor? Opposed, and it's carried unanimously. Item. Pardon me? Second? Oh, seconder was Cheryl, I believe. Yeah. Item, I apologize if I'm going too fast. Not very aware of what's going on around me. Item 7.9 is report dash 13184 from the Deputy Director of Infrastructure and Sustainable Development about lane construction. Councillor McFadden.
Move that report number 13-184 from the Deputy Director of Infrastructure and Sustainability Development regarding lane construction behind 10732 18th Street be received. Further, that the request from Mr. Daryl Haney to construct a gravel lane behind 10728 18th Street be approved and constructed at the expense of the city under the 2013 operational budget.
Very good. Is there a seconder? Councillor Schumann is seconding. Does anybody wish to speak to this? Councillor Parson?
Yeah, I again have as with the previous item, I have some questions, I guess. My understanding is that this lane has been sort of looked after as green space, but was in the community plan, is designated a lane. Why are we, what good to the community accrues from this work, or is it just to the benefit of the individual who asked for it?
Mr. Shute?
Through your worship, laneways generally are for the benefit of the properties that border the laneway, just as roadways in residential areas certainly are mostly for the benefit of the residents of that area, but that doesn't mean that they pay for those lanes or those roadways. They're condition of subdivision. This laneway was created at some point in the past, for which there are no records, and certainly no records that council ever authorized. The northernmost portion of this lane was blocked off, and it was converted to a green space maintained by the neighbors. But it was never closed legally, and so it continues as a laneway that the public has the right to use, and certainly the property owners there have the right to use. And so Mr. Haney is entitled to drive in that laneway to get to the rear of his property. What we are suggesting is it will be a worse situation if that driving is through the green grass in the moist conditions, and eventually it will become a real eyesore. And so we would suggest, since he has the right to use it for that fashion and is now using it for that fashion, that we go ahead and provide the same general lane conditions that we have to the properties that are to the south of there on the other side of the temporary border. That's all we're saying.
Councillor Parslow?
So the residents of the area have maintained this as green space, but it should be for lane construction and to help this individual gain access to his property. The other part that confused me was the fact that he wanted the retention, I forget how he described it in the report, but essentially people would not be able to drive onto his property. Is that, am I misreading that, Jim?
Through your worship, what he is suggesting is he has no problem with, and in fact desires that the fence barrier be continued, which prevents through traffic. It allows access to all properties either side of the fence, but it prevents through traffic. And as I say, I can't find any records to how it was authorized to put a fence up across that laneway. But I understand why the desire would have been not to have through traffic there. It's a considerably different circumstance for those neighbors if they have, rather than just access to the rear of their own properties, they have the potential traffic coming out of Legacy Market and using that as a shortcut into Willowbrook, for instance. So what he is saying is he'd prefer the fence stayed. Having the fence doesn't impair anybody's ability to get in and out of their back property. It just prevents through traffic. So we have seen no reason to remove the fence.
Right on. Oh gee. I had some quandaries, I suppose, with this this recommendation. It was, well, I suppose we'll see what we make of this here, but is it possible to have the entrance to Mr. Haney's property come from the existing laneway, just to move the fence and, well, move the fence back a little bit? Or I suppose the laneway is existing, and as such he is entitled to the use of it. Is that correct, Jim?
That's correct. It's a public thoroughfare. He can use it. That doesn't mean that you have any responsibility to maintain it or
Mhm.
gravel it. You don't.
Yeah.
We're just suggesting that if he's going to use it, that can't be prevented. The neighbors who have had, enjoyed a park-like setting,
Mm-hmm.
aren't going to enjoy that park-like setting anymore,
Mhm.
because he's going to be using that lane for access. But instead of just losing their green space, they're going to also have really unsightly and unappealing mess behind their properties. We think gravel would be better.
Yeah. There's 2 trees in the laneway there, if I saw the picture correctly. Isn't that right?
Yes.
Okay. What, I'm just exhausting the topic fully, I apologize, but is there any possible action that could be taken to designate the property, designate that laneway a different way so that the current use could be allowed?
Yes, through your worship, council could resolve to close that lane. Designated park, you could do all of that. There's a process on that.
Mm-hmm.
The question of what compensation might or might not be owed to Mr. Haney would be a separate
Is that right?
consideration.
Mhm.
At the time he purchased his home, and in fact he has now been using the lane for access, so there's special laws around thoroughfares, and we would need a legal opinion about whether we would have to construct him alternate access, for instance.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Thank you very much for that. Anybody wish to speak any further? No? I will call the question. All those in favor? Those opposed? Myself. Item 7.10 is next. It's report number 13-188 from the Deputy Director of Community Services regarding the Crescent View consultation. Councillor Schumann.
Move report number 13-188 from the Deputy Director of Community Services regarding Crescent View public consultation be received. Further, the council directs staff to develop a park plan and budget for the 2014 strategic planning sessions.
Very good. Councillor McFadden is seconding. Is there any discussion on this? I have indicated a few times my support and appreciation for this process. It was great to work with the neighborhood to develop, to identify what to do with that property, and I just want to commend staff for their approach on this one more time. Very good. If there's no more discussion, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed, and it's carried unanimously. Item 711 is report number 13-186. Oh, yeah. 13-186 from the Deputy Director of Community Services regarding lease policy appendix. Councillor McFadden.
That report number 13-186 from the Deputy Director of Community Services lease policy appendix be received. Further, that council approve the attached document as Appendix A to the user fees and charges for publicly provided parks and recreation services policy.
Very good. Councillor Schumann is seconding. Awesome. All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried unanimously. And one final report. Report number 13-197 from the Deputy Director of Community Services, EGS Astro Selects.
I would like to move the recommendation. When I scroll to it,
Okay.
it reminds me of a previous request like this that I moved and subsequently lost. The report number 13-197 from the Deputy Director of Community Service re GGS Astro Selects be received. Further, the council approve a special occasion liquor permit for the August 24th and 25th DGS Astro Select Slow Pitch fundraiser. Further, the request to waive rental fees for the Harry Morrow Ball Diamonds for the event be denied based on the recently approved fees and charges policy.
Very good. I'll second that, I suppose. So, is there any discussion on this? Councillor McFadden?
It seems to me, Your Worship, that there are two things in here. They want a special occasion liquor permit, and they want the fees waived for the ball diamond for that couple of days. So are we denying both through this motion?
No, that's not correct. We're doing the, we're approving a special occasion liquor permit for the August 24th and 25th, but we're denying the, well, the recommendation is to not deny the rental fees.
Okay.
Waiving the rental fees.
Thank you for pointing that out, Your Worship.
You're welcome.
Question?
All right, does Councillor Parslow?
Well, I can't help but say something about
Sure,
this.
you go ahead.
We had a similar request from a group who involved in raising money for the water park, and council waived the policy for them because the council felt that they were not aware of the changes made. So I'm assuming that council, in voting in favour of this motion, knows that the DGS, whatever the group's name is now, DGS Astro Selects, were aware of the
Yes.
changes in the policy, just so we have consistency here.
Thanks for identifying that, Councillor Parslow.
Couldn't resist.
No, it's good. It's very, very good. I believe that all these folks have been communicated that our policies have been amended and have been given good forewarning about it. So, sorry, Mr.
Through
Shute.
Your Worship, the DGS Astro Selects ladies slow pitch team isn't one of our users. They don't rent anything from us. They are in fact a team that comes together at the close of a slow pitch season. But the parent body, the Slow Pitch Association, and hence the teams that they all play on, have been informed of this. But has there been a specific consultation with the DGS Selects? Actually, no, we were unaware that they existed prior to this letter.
Okay. I'm sure that council will agree that's a reasonable notification, but
Yep,
Councillor Parslow.
absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, very good. Okay. All those in favor of the recommendation? Opposed, and it's carried. Yeah, sure. Does council agree? Is there any objection to a recess here for a few minutes?
No?
Okay.
I'm sure that Councillor McFadden can wait
Yeah,
a
yeah.
little bit.
I'm sure he's looking forward to it. We'll recess for 5 minutes and convene very shortly. All right, folks. Now I was just kidding the last time. I'll call this one to order now. We'll actually do it now. This is report number 13-181. Item number 8.1 from the Director of Corporate Administration. Councillor McFadden.
Move that report number 13181 from the Director of Corporate Administration, Water Conservation Measures Amendment Bylaw be received. Further, that third reading of Water Conservation Measures Amendment Bylaw number 4183, 2013 be rescinded. Further, that clause 3.1.6 be removed and replaced with the following. A permit must be displayed on the premises so as to be clearly visible from the street and must be removed immediately upon expiry. And further, that bylaw number 4183, 2013 be given third reading as amended.
Very good. Councillor Schumann is seconding. Please forgive me, Councillor McFadden, while I ensure robust discussion of this topic. It's a very, very important thing to Councillor Schumann did.
Okay, I didn't see that.
And considering the feedback that we received this morning at the public consultation, I think it's important to identify some of the concerns that were mentioned. So does anybody wish to speak to this? Anybody want to get going? Councillor Parsons?
Yes, well, obviously this amendment, and I think we should thank Gladys for her input here as well. You know, the citizens of the community clearly have stated that they expect city to do all it can to prevent the community being put on stage 4. And the opportunity of managing Bear Hole Lake in times of drought, and the requirement that that water not be used by industry has led to this bylaw. And so hopefully the city will be able to manage water in a stronger way to alleviate the unpopular old stage 4. So when I have explained the opportunity that the city was presented with concerning Bear Hole Lake to people, I have had overwhelming support, not unanimous, but overwhelming support for the city's direction. But I've had to stress as well, though, that industry is not being cut off from waters. It's only when we have to consider moving from stage 1. And as Jim has stated, hoping I'm stating accurately here, that since the days of city incorporation, which is how many years now, Jim? 50 something?
Incorporated in 1961.
Since 1961, it's only been 60 days where we had to be on stage 4, the old stage 4. So hopefully things will be able to be managed stronger so that we can avoid the old stage 4. And but this is just one step in the process of providing some high level of confidence in our water supply. So I think this is a good move.
Yep. I couldn't agree more. It's I think it's a good move to make as well. We are and the bit about Bear Hole I think is very important to identify as well. You know, it's just us responding to the ministry's desire to ensure that all users apply and receive permits for the water that they require, you know, rather than allowing third-party users to simply buy water from the city that's been released from Bear Hole Lake when they were refused extraction permits in the first place. So it's, yeah, I think that we're headed in the right direction here. It's another opportunity for management, for us to, well, provide us with a little bit more security. So it's, I believe it's the right way to go. Taking into consideration the response that we received to the the proposed bylaw this morning, it's well, those are certainly things that we consider as well. Mr. Javakov's attendance, I'm sure, was appreciated, and those will be considerations that we make as this process unfolds. You know, it's a long way. There's a long way to go, and well, yes, we'll be making budget assumptions this fall and be considering a lot of information before then. We just are going to make sure that we move forward in the adequate direction, the appropriate direction. Awesome. Does anybody else wish to speak? No? I am going to call the question on this, once I pull it up here. I'm going to call the question on the recommendation. All those in favor? All those opposed? It is carried unanimously. Item 8.2, report number 13 dash, am I correct here? Yes?
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I am. 13-183 from the Director of Corporate Administration. Councillor
I'd
Parslow.
like to move the report number 13-183 from the Director of Corporate Administration, re loan authorization amendment bylaw 4184 for the 2013 capital roadworks be received. Further, that bylaw number 4184 2013 be adopted.
I'd like. Oh, Councillor Schumann seconding. I'm just very, very enthusiastic about this one. I just have one quick question, if possible. We did receive one negative reaction to the paving along 17th administrative officer. Is that correct?
On the paving bylaws, we got nothing in the counter petition. We have had one call regarding the mechanics of the paving on 17th Street, but it is not it wasn't submitted as a petition against.
Okay. So hopefully we'll be able to work through that. I trust that staff will be able to work through that. It's good. All those in favor? Opposed? And it's carried. Item 8.3 is report number 13-195 from the Director of Infrastructure and Sustainable Development regarding the OCP and zoning amendment bylaw. Number 4185. Councillor Parslow, did you wish to move something?
Yeah, report number 13-193.
Oh, sorry, yes.
Okay?
Very good.
Yeah. I'd like to move the report number 13-193 from the Director of Infrastructure and Sustainable Development, re OCP and zoning amendment bylaw numbers 4185 and 4186. 2013 be received. Further, the OCP/zoning amendment bylaw numbers 4185 and 4186. 2013 redesignating 10008 and 10012 17th Street from neighbourhood commercial to residential, and rezoning the same from C4 commercial surface zone to RM2 residential medium density multiple family zone be given first and second readings, and further that staff be directed to publish the required notice for a formal public consultation and public hearing.
Very good. Councillor McFadden is seconding. Does anybody wish to speak to this? If not, I will call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? And it is carried unanimously. Item 8.4, report number 13-194 from the Director of Infrastructure and Sustainable Development. Anybody? I could move it if you guys would like. Oh, Councillor McFadden.
That report number 13194 from the Director of Infrastructure and Sustainable Development, rezoning amendment 13-10, bylaw number 4187 2013 be received. Further, that zoning amendments 13-10, bylaw number 4187 2013 regarding a 3-hectare area on Lot 1, Plan EP 26863, near the corner of 17th Street and 87th Avenue be given first and second reading, and further that staff be directed to publish the required notice for a formal public consultation and hearing.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Councillor Schumann is seconding. Beautiful. Is there any discussion on this? Councillor
I
Parslow?
believe Councillor McFadden should reread the third line of this recommendation for public record so that it is read correctly.
Line 3?
Line 3, start with Lot 1.
I can't see. Oh, Lot 1. I can't see Lot 1.
You
Here
missed
we
it.
are.
You missed it.
Regarding a 3-hectare area on Lot 1, Plan EPP 26863.
Yes, right.
What did I miss?
The P.
No way.
Yes, you just said EP. You should have said EPP, and I would hate you to be wrong about something.
Can I get a ruling on that, Mr. Shute?
I think I'm going to let you do your PPs all on your own. Councillor McFadden.
Brenda sides with me.
Brenda sides with Charlie. That's good. That's good.
Oh, that was great.
It's the school teacher and Charlie coming out
Oh, yeah.
and giving Terry a lesson.
That was great.
All right, folks. All those in favor? Opposed? It is carried. Item 8.5, report number 13-179 from the Deputy Director of Infrastructure and Sustainable Development regarding the subdivision and servicing bylaw, number 4176, 2013.
Well,
Oh, yes, go ahead.
I'll try one more if Councillor Parslow is paying attention here. I move that report number 13-179 from the Deputy Director of Infrastructure and Sustainable Development, RE, Subdivision and Development Servicing Bylaw number 4176, 2013 be received. Further, that first three readings be approved.
Very good. Very good.
I'll second it. It'd be an honour to second that, Terry.
Question?
I had one question on this, if possible. This is a big deal. The subdivision servicing bylaw provides well, it's a lot of the framework for the work that is currently being done, and it will be providing a lot of the framework in the near future. And there are a few new requirements for subdivision. A few more. I don't know how to describe it diplomatically, but there are a few, I suppose, new requirements with the with this bylaw, including sidewalk increases from 1.2 to 1.5. Maybe staff could speak a little bit to those.
Through your worship, I'm happy to have Kevin do that. I imagine, since he doesn't have it in front of him, he'd rather it was a
true.
question about one of them rather than going
Sure.
over the 400 or so that are included.
Yeah, that's right.
Quite
That's
the list
right.
there,
Yeah,
yeah.
the sidewalk increases specifically. What's the? Is there any sort of? Is it just higher standards? We're moving into the 21st century.
Through your worship, actually that's an interesting one you bring up, is that's something that came out of the transportation plan work that we're working with Boulevard group.
Mhm.
Actually, they recommend even wider sidewalks, but we were going from, I believe, 1.2 to 1.5, so we thought that was a significant increase, but
Yeah.
they suggest even upwards of 2 meters.
Really?
Wide for allow proper passing, because if you have someone, with a stroller or something along that lines, 1.2, 1.5 gets pretty tight, so.
Mhm.
That's one example of one of the changes, but, a number of the changes are obviously derived, the existing bylaw that we work under is fairly old.
Yeah, that's right.
And hasn't been updated for well over 20 years. And of course, with all the recent development and growth in the community, we see a lot of opportunities and requests from the public that come forward, and that's certainly helped shape some of these changes. And changes that are put forth are not uncommon, let's say, in other communities. This is bringing us up to speed.
It's very, very good. It's important for us to stay current and relevant, especially with the growth that we're seeing right now. Councillor Schumann?
Yeah, so I also see the implementation of 1 tree per lot rule in residential and commercial areas, and I've been getting a lot of questions about subdivision developments and planting of trees. So this means now that there will be required at least 1 tree on each lot, which I think would go a long ways to making some of those people happy that have been.
Yes, through your worship, it's traditionally subdivision development's been focused on sidewalks, roads, water, sewer, but more and more you're starting to see a demand and requests for soft items such as trees, landscaping, finishing, because when individuals buy into a subdivision, they like to feel that they're moving into a completed community, and and a lot of the new ones right now simply don't have that because there is a lack of such items.
Yep. I can really appreciate that. One of the things I like about Dawson Creek specifically is the proliferation of trees. It's very nice. I just want to say one last time that I appreciate what's been presented here. It's good. Going to make our subdivisions a little bit more workable and community friendly. Does anybody else wish to speak to this? Hearing nothing, I will call the question. All those in favor? Opposed, and it is carried. Item 8.6, Official Community Plan Amendment Bylaw number 4174 and 2013, and Zoning Amendment Bylaw number 4175, 2013, for consideration of adoption. Well, third reading and adoption. Councillor Schumann.
I'll move that.
Oh, Councillor Parslow is seconding. No discussion? All those in favor? Opposed, and it is carried. Brings us to item 9.1 on the agenda. Oh dear. Now, how will we proceed with this? It has been struck from the agenda, is that correct?
That's correct.
Very good. Item 9.1, the John Vetter zoning development. There's currently not enough council members to act on this issue, so I believe it'll be determined how to, we'll determine how to proceed with this at the, before the next meeting. Item 9.2, Mayor's business is a verbal report regarding the Fall Fair exhibition and stampede, which was held this weekend. I haven't. I did try to attempt to make contact with the organizers, some of the organizers of the event yesterday, about how the event went, but I haven't received word since then. I am certain that the rain and other issues that developed over the weekend have caused some difficulty, but certainly the accounts that I've heard from friends and others is that it was a successful, very exciting weekend, and that they already look forward to next year. So congratulations to the Exhibition Association on an event yet again, 91st event. I didn't have anything else that I wished to identify under Mayor's business. I suppose we will move into the diary. Is there anything on the diary, Jim?
Nothing for this meeting, Your Worship.
Okay. Consent calendar. Councillor Schumann is moving consent calendar. Councillor McFadden is seconding. All those in favor? Very good. No objections. Strategic priorities chart. Any amendments there, Jim?
Nothing new, Your Worship.
Very good. Thank you very much. Which brings us to question and answer period. Brenda, has anybody signed up for question and answer period?
No, there is not.
All right. That brings us to the media question period. Does any member of the media wish to ask any questions?
Well, actually, I just had one for, this is sort of a clarification to an earlier comment made by Jim Shute. I guess what he, I'm sorry if I'm getting it wrong, but I thought what I heard was that he was saying that if MMBC doesn't choose DC recycling as a qualified processor for the pickup, there's a chance that it could either negatively affect or possibly put out of business DC recycling. I just want to know if there was what the situation is if DC recycling isn't chosen as the qualified processor.
Through Your Worship, I don't know the details of any of that. I just know that they've expressed a concern. Mr. Kluche, when he was in your meeting, expressed concern about what would happen if they weren't chosen. So I assume that's because they will have much of their recycling stream diverted elsewhere.
Yes. Yeah.
If I may, just
To Jim here?
yeah, just as a follow-up, Jim, MMBC is a provincial crown corporation, is that it?
It's an industry provincial partnership, which doesn't qualify it as a crown corporation, but they have a or a categorization for those kind of bodies. Similar body is the Tire Recycling Council, for instance.
Thank you. Sorry to interrupt there.
No, that's fine. That's fine. Councillor Schumann, I believe, has a question. Forgive me, Will. but-
I also want to ask Jim a question. So we sign on to this. There's no guarantee that the Dawson Creek or DC Recycling will get the contract. We don't sign on to this. There's no guarantee that DC Recycling will get the contract. Is that true?
That's correct.
Either
That's
way.
right, that's right.
Either way we make the decision,
Mhm.
it doesn't guarantee DC Recycling, will get that contract.
That's
I just
correct.
wanted to
Okay,
point
yeah,
that
no,
out.
yeah, no, I was aware of that, but thank you for, you know, I'm not omniscient yet, so.
Thanks, Will.
Will, did you have any further questions? You're good?
Yeah, no, I'm good. Yeah,
Thanks
no,
very
see you
much.
guys. Alright.
All right. I need a resolution to recess to the closed portion of the meeting. Councillor Parslow is moving. Schumann seconding. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried.